2 weeks ago, we drove the new Mercedes A45 AMG in Germany, and by and large, we loved it. We liked the handling of its new four-wheel drive chassis, we thought its steering and brakes were excellent, and we loved the stonking performance from its 355 bhp, 2-litre turbocharged engine. The only thing we wondered about was its asking price, because at £37,845, the A45 does look eye-wateringly expensive, especially beside its most obvious rivals, such as the new £28,000 VW Golf GTI, tested here with the Performance Pack upgrade and DSG, and BMW's even more potent M135i, which in base trim costs several £1,000s less than the Mercedes. So I guess the question is this: is the new baby AMG good enough to justify its price and thump opposition like this in the process, or has Mercedes bitten off more than it can chew? I just have to reiterate, this cabin is absolutely lovely. The seats, they're beautiful. They really are comfortable, but they're so supportive. The whole cabin just feels instantly sporty, focused. You just feel like you've climbed aboard a really, really serious piece of kit when you get in this car. But before we do anything else, I'm going to see if I can stay with that M135i over this road. Off you go. I'm in manual, which is sport. I've got the ESP turned up to its sportier setting. They're very, very similarly matched, these things, in a straight line. I'd say, well, let's say the claimed performance figures say that the Mercedes gets from 0 to 60 in 4.6. We have road tested that very M135i at 0 to 60 in 4.6, so you can't really separate them. But the way they go about getting there is completely different, because the BMW has just got masses of torque, and it slightly runs out of puff at the top end, whereas the Mercedes really comes on really strong over the last 1500 RPM. The Mercedes just feels so sorted though. It feels glued to the road. There's just a whiff of understeer. Oh man, the chassis on this car is off the dial. It's brilliant. Surprisingly good ride in the A45. Really nice steering. I think the steering is maybe the nicest bit of all, actually. You can just put so much faith in the front end of this car. The gearbox is fantastic too. Very good engine, but perhaps not a great engine, although bear in mind that you've got 350 horsepower out of a 2-litre turbocharged 4. That's insane. I'll tell you what though, this car is outrageously fast across the land. I mean, that BMW is looking a little bit ragged up there. The A45 AMG is a monster of a car. I know it's expensive, but I think it's worth it. I think it's flipping marvellous. So this is the first time we've driven the new Golf GTI in the UK, having been extremely impressed with it on its international launch in France. It's very much the underdog of this group, the GTI, because it's an awful lot cheaper than the Mercedes. But given how good I personally thought it was on that launch, I think the Golf could do some damage on this test. So let's see if it can stay with the Mercedes over this road. Oh, bye-bye Mercedes. He's 200 yards further up the road. Oh man, that is what horsepower does for you. See if I can catch him back up in these bends. I doubt it. Love the diff in this car, it really does. Oh man, it nails the front end to the corners, the diff in this thing. This is the Performance Pack version, remember, which means you get the diff as standard. The big difference between the Golf and the Mercedes is the straight line poke. He just disappeared. He went. I put my thumb up, gone. Goodbye. Well, look, you do the maths. The Golf has 227 horsepower and weighs about 100 or so kilograms less than the Mercedes. The Mercedes has 350 something horsepower. Oh, and you just can't do anything about it in a straight line. He's just gone. However, in isolation, I still think the new Golf GTI is a real peach of a hot hatch. And bear in mind that it is that much cheaper, a lot cheaper, a third cheaper basically. The ride in the Golf compared with in sport is livelier than the ride in the Mercedes. And in the Mercedes there's no electronic stuff. The suspension is as the suspension is, which is nice. I like that about the Mercedes. The Golf also has a variable ratio rack to its steering, just like the BMW, but the steering in the Golf feels really natural. It just has very, very sharp, precise steering. Very good body control, great brakes. The Golf GTI, the new Golf GTI, is still a very, very good hot hatch. It's a fantastic hot hatch. I think it's better than it's ever been, actually. I love it, but it can't get anywhere near that Mercedes. Okay, same thing again, but this time in the BMW. Engine in this car is thumping, it really is. It's got a little bit less power than the Mercedes, but identical amount of torque, but it produces the torque lower down than the Mercedes. So actually, out of the corners, it's got the A45 covered. And of course it's rear wheel drive, not fore or front wheel drive. There's no diff, so you can't do the big sideways stuff. So let's just see it drag up this hill. Wow, he's just leaving me behind. The Mercedes is quicker than the BMW. I'm amazed. Not like it was than the Golf, but he's definitely just left me. And I don't think I've got a chance of staying with him around these corners. Oh, I don't like the BMW steering, I really don't. I'm also a bit shocked by how poor the BMW's body control is. Not just after the Mercedes, but the Golf as well. It's really moving around all over the road, the 135i. Didn't expect that. Good gearbox in the BMW, but this is the optional 8-speed automatic with paddles. Works pretty well. I think if you were going to have one of these, you'd have the gearbox. What I would not have is the steering. The variable ratio rack. You can keep that as far as I'm concerned. The bottom line is that A45 AMG is just some kind of rocket ship. I can't stay with it. And the M135i is not a slow car. Very interesting. The unquestionable winner is the Mercedes. No doubt. It's an amazing car. It's comfortable. It's more comfortable than the BMW. It's faster than the BMW. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth every penny. The Golf, on the other hand, is the bargain of the group. But I actually think that if it was my money, I would have the Golf instead of the BMW. And in a money no object world,